At one time, Edge Transit was literally a meme. It was dropping non-stop for folks years ago. And there were all kinds of posts coming out about Edge Transit, from changing the title screen, from having every slot on your character be Edge Transit. And that's because whatever the weighted tables were in terms of drop rates, for some reason, it was heavily in favor of Edge Transit. The problem? The weapon sucked. No, really, it sucked. Literally no one used it. But Bungie has brought it back to us as part of our Brave Arsenal, turning it from one of the biggest memes in all of Destiny to now one of the greatest heavy weapons you can get right now. Now, we've already done a live damage test of this Void Adaptive Frame grenade launcher. However, today, we're going to be diving into Edge Transit's roles. We're going to talk about everything in that third and fourth column, and then going over what exactly is that God role. Keep in mind, guys, if there was one weapon you need to get the shiny drop for, it would be Edge Transit. Now, starting off with our third column perks, we have Chain Reaction, we've got Cascade Points, Field Prep, Auto-Loading Holster, Envious Assassin, Impulse Amplifier, and Repulsor Brace. In our fourth column, we have Explosive Light, Deconstruct, Bait and Switch, Destabilizing Rounds, Frenzy, Adrenaline Junkie, and Full Court. Now, let me just go ahead and cut to the chase on what is the God role in that third column. First, if you can't get the shiny drop, I think Envious Assassin is always a great choice. Defeating targets with other weapons before drawing this one transfers ammo to the magazine from reserves. Now, this effect can overflow the magazine based on the number of targets defeated. Now, the maximum overflow is 200% of your mag capacity, and each activation will load up to 100% of the mag capacity into your mag. So that means for Edge Transit here, this requires 2 activations, and this will bring your mag size up to 18. Now, we have mag boosting perks. Considering spec mods are being removed, pretty much all of us are going to be rocking backup mag. So for instance, if you're using something like Augmented Drum or even Mini Frags and a backup mag, you can get up to 24 shots, allowing you to completely blow thy load. But again, to get the most out of Edge Transit, get some kills, preferably with a special weapon, swap to Edge Transit so you get that 100% increase, then get some more kills with your other weapons, preferably a special, and then swap back to Edge Transit to get that 200% increase. And this will essentially line up every grenade you have into a single magazine. Now, with the launch of the final shape, we are going to have the ability to enhance these weapons. And essentially, the enhanced version of Envious Assassin will allow for increases in the amount of ammo that weapon types will overflow. So for primary weapons, it goes from 10% to 12.5%. Special weapons will go from 20% to 22.5%. So understand, guys, what you're seeing here is only going to get better. Now, the other perk that we love on Edge Transit, and this is really what makes it so unique, especially if you can get the shiny drop, is Cascade Point. Cascade Point reads that final blows or sustained precision hits with another weapon increases this weapon's rate of fire for a short duration. Guys, this is a phenomenal perk, especially in short damage windows. You do a couple shots with some of your other weapons, whether it's a sniper rifle or even your primary weapon, but in those tight DPS phases, it allows you to blow your load very fast. And essentially, landing either kills or precision hits within 5 seconds of each other with another weapon will then give you a buff saying Cascade Point ready. And this will be up for the next 5 seconds. And upon readying your weapon with Cascade Point, you'll get a 40% reduced firing delay for 2.5 seconds. Now, the beautiful thing about the enhanced version of this is that that firing delay will instead last for 2.75 seconds. So even longer. And I know you're probably thinking, Cross, 2.5, 2.75, who cares? That seems like a small amount of time. You see this load blowing right here? And the beautiful thing about this is that you can proc Envious Assassin, and then you can swap your perk over to Cascade, proc Cascade Point in a damage phase, blow your initial load in 2.5 seconds, or in the final shape, 2.75 seconds, and then continue firing the rest of your magazine. Now, Bungie did say they are looking at this perk combination, but we have not gotten specifics on how they're going to be addressing it. I'm hoping for the final shape, they're going to let this one fly. Because if you get this trait combination together, which yes, we did, dude, the stars just aligned perfectly for you. Now, can you rock things like Field Prep in that column? Sure. That kicks up your ammo reserves, gives you faster reload and stow speed, as well as ready speed when you're crouching. The enhanced version also grants you 5 more reload speed and 10 more inventory size stats. You also got auto-loading holster. Perhaps you're doing damage with other weapons, whether it's Izanagi's Burden, and you can essentially do damage with other things, then swap back and ammo dump. But to me, guys, again, we saw it in our damage testing. When you're looking at that combination of Cascade Point, Envious Assassin, overloading that magazine, and then just ammo dumping literally everything you have, it puts out ferocious DPS. Look at where Leviathan's Breath is, which we love Levy Breath. It does tremendous amounts of damage. But look where Levy's Breath is, then look where things like Cataphract and Edge Transit is. It's incredible. And the enhanced versions of these traits are only going to make this weapon even stronger. Now, before we move on to the fourth column perks, I do want to mention that Chain Reaction is also present in that third column. Look, you can run around and utilize Chain Reaction on this GL for ad clear. And I would say before the Deconstruct nerf, that was a role I kept. Chain Reaction plus Deconstruct, literally just run around clearing ads and creating ammo for myself. We're going to talk more on Deconstruct in just a moment, as that is getting a nerf, but there is still benefits to using it. But this takes us to column 4. We're going to first talk about Bait and Switch. Now, a lot of folks say this is the go-to option. The perk reads, deal damage with all equipped weapons within a short time to give the weapon a damage boost. Now, upon dealing damage with all of your equipped weapons within 7 seconds of each, this is going to grant you a 30% increase in weapon damage. Now, I do need to mention that this did get a nerf. It used to be 35%, but it's now 30%. It's still a nice damage buff nonetheless, and with the enhanced version of Bait and Switch, this is going to increase our duration to 11 seconds. But keep in mind, guys, 11 seconds, it's a bit longer to hang on to that buff, and when you're in a situation where you got Cascade Point procced with Envious Assassin and you're mag dumping, that extra second tacks on a lot of extra damage. The other good damage perk on Edge Transit is, of course, Explosive Light. Picking up an Orb of Power increases the next projectile's blast radius and damage. Now, picking up an Orb of Power grants 1 stack of Explosive Light, and this maxes out to 6. You then consume 1 stack per shot, which grants 100 blast radius and a 60% increase to your explosive damage. Now, for the enhanced version, this increases our maximum stacks to 7, which is really nice. Now, let me just say, in regards to which one of these damage perks is the best, for me, guys, it just depends. For instance, the Planet Encounters. Some people have trouble proccing Bait and Switch and mag dumping, and I myself have had many instances with Explosive Light where I have out-damaged folks rocking Bait and Switch, and that's just because that damage phase in between plates is such a tight window. At the same time, Bait and Switch does net you more damage overall. And if you're in an environment where you don't have orbs readily available, especially if you're running solo, there's a reason why in things like Warlord's Ruin, I'm constantly rocking Bait and Switch as a solo player. And that's because I can self-proc it for myself. I'm not dependent on picking up orbs from my teammates. And that's the thing about Explosive Light. Even with the enhanced version, you're going to be limited to 7. My solution? Fellas, you just want to get a shiny drop with both of these together. Now, no. Cross, you're asking us to get both Cascade Points, Envious Assassin in third column, and then Bait and Switch and Explosive Light in that fourth column? Why, yes, I am. That right there is the shiny god roll. You literally have the best of both worlds. And depending on the encounter you're going in, you could swap from one to the other. And if your RNG is shite, no worries. Code Aztecross at GamerSups will substantially increase your RNG chances. Shameless plug? Now, if you don't have Bait and Switch or Explosive Light, is there anything else? You've got Frenzy. It's a 15% increase in damage, but I wouldn't do it, guys. I'm just saying, there's just better things than Frenzy. Full Court is also present here, which increases detonation damage as the projectile travels further. Look, man, at one time, Full Court was the perk. And yes, it does scale up to 25%, but you gotta have some major range in order to get that full benefit. I just wouldn't do it. The other damage perk, though, that I would recommend is Deconstruct. Kind of a niche pick, but the perk reads that dealing sustained damage grants bonus damage against vehicles and constructs for an improved duration and refunds ammunition. Damage with primary ammo or against constructs provides additional progress. Essentially, guys, after scoring multiple hits within 6 seconds of each, this will grant you 40% increased damage against constructs and vehicles. The other portion of the perk is that it refills 10% of the magazine from thin air currently, which seems to happen roughly every 3 shots. Now, I say currently because Deconstruct is getting a nerf. In the Dev Insight article in the Final Shape Weapon Balancing Pass, Bungie noted that Deconstruct is being changed to now refill from reserves instead of from thin air, but that it should trigger more reliably across weapon types. So what this essentially means, guys, is you're not going to get free ammo from Deconstruct. And this definitely seems to be targeted not just at Edge Transit here, but also Tusk of the Boar, which you can get Deconstruct on, and it's really, really good as a wayframe. With that being said, though, Deconstruct is still a very good perk. You're talking 40% increased damage against constructs and vehicles, which may not seem like a lot of things, but take the 0-hour exotic mission, for instance. That mission on Legend, this perk came in clutch. Whether you're dealing with the fallen walkers, ships, threshers, all of these things, Deconstruct will be proccing on. How many times have you been killed by threshers while on Neomuna? Deconstruct is literally made to deal with those enemy types. Now, if you are going to go the route of Deconstruct, I highly advise pairing it with the magazine perk Sticky Grenades. See guys, sticky grenades attach on impact and detonate when enemies are in proximity. Now what this means is that because it essentially hits twice, Deconstruct has more opportunities to proc. That's why Deconstruct sticky grenades is the combo to go for if you're trying to full send for a Deconstruct god roll. Now if you were going to go that route, the question is, what trait do you pair with Deconstruct? Listen, it really just comes down to whatever it is you're trying to do. Like if you're ad clearing, chain reaction is pretty good here. Auto loading holster is also good for running gunning. And then of course cascade point for you to just blow your load and have your mag constantly top itself off. What I do not recommend is Deconstruct and Envious Assassin. These perks actually conflict with each other. Deconstruct will not proc if your magazine is overflowed, which pretty much defeats the whole purpose of using Envious Assassin and Deconstruct. Whatever you do, just don't use that combination. Now, before we start talking DPS, I do want us to go over the origin trait Indomitability. Final blows grant grenade energy when playing a light subclass or melee energy when playing a darkness subclass. Now, this is going to grant you 5% grenade ability energy on weapon kills if you're using a light subclass, and 5% melee ability energy on weapon kills if you're using a darkness subclass. Definitely a perk that's going to be very useful with Prismatic going into the final shape. Now guys, when we talk about the god roll for Edge Transit, we need to talk about blast radius and how it affects our damage here. For instance, an Edge Transit with 60 blast radius deals 53,195 damage. Now if we change our mag perk and lower the same weapon to have 50 blast radius, it will do 53,236 damage. Now that's not a big jump in damage. We're talking 0.07%. But the point is, guys, the less blast radius, the better. And what this really brings into consideration is mini frags versus spike grenades. For the longest time, spike grenades has been like the go-to perk when it came to grenade launcher damage. However, it did get a nerf, which is why we are considering other magazine perks. The minimum blast radius roll of 50 with spike grenades deals 54,723 damage. Now, if you were to get a mini frag roll and then proceed to drop it down to 35 blast radius, this will deal 53,317 damage. So in this situation, guys, you do still want to run spike. I know mini frags does in fact allow you to hold one more shot. This of course greatly helps when stacking with things like backup mag and then Envious Assassin. But in terms of sheer total damage, it's not just that 2.5–3% over an entire damage phase. It's 2.5–3% per shot from spike grenades. Now granted, my Shining God roll doesn't come with spike grenades. Does it mean it's garbage? Absolutely not. I am 1,000% going to continue using this roll. On the flip side of things, for my people that are rocking explosive light, keep in mind that perk maxes out your blast radius. So at least for those first 6 shots with explosive light, or I guess in the final shape, the first 7 shots, whatever your launcher barrel perk really doesn't matter. Now onto our damage testing against Greg, and starting out with my Envious Assassin bait and switch roll with augmented drum. We're dealing 1,211,688 total damage with a DPS value of 67,995. with this roughly taking 17.82 seconds to fully dock. Now keep in mind guys, we're also removing the damage from our primary weapons that we're utilizing here to proc bait and switch, but the time itself does include the time it takes to proc bait and switch. Now with an Envious Assassin roll plus bait and switch, but with spike grenades, this increases our damage to 1,244,468 with a DPS value of 69,835. This still being over 17.82 seconds. Now if we did Envious Assassin, then swap off the Cascade with bait and switch being procced and our augmented drum, we're still dealing the same amount of total damage of 1,211,688, but our DPS here is 69,160 over 17.52 seconds. Now, of course, our total damage here drops off because we're not utilizing spike. Now, moving over to our explosive light roll, this buffing our first 6 shots plus Envious Assassin and augmented drum, our total damage drops off again here at 1,072,542. But our DPS goes up to 78,003, which is quite a noticeable jump. Keep in mind though, total damage definitely suffered here. That's because we're not proccing bait and switch. At the same time, our DPS is higher as we can immediately start doing damage. This results in us completely mag dumping here in 13.75 seconds. Now we also use Cascade Point as a swap off after proccing Envious Assassin and Explosive Light and Augmented Drum, and this gave us the same total damage, but the DPS value here is a little bit faster at 78,748. Now this is where we we take it a step further. Because spec mods are being deprecated, pretty much all of us are going to be using backup mag. And what backup mag allows with a mag boosting perk is the ability to overflow 24 shots. Guys, this isn't a single magazine. Now, if we had spike grenades instead, this would overflow 21 shots. Now I'm going to start with our Envious Assassin, Explosive Light, Augmented Drum Roll with backup mag. We're dealing the same 1,072,542 total damage, but our DPS jumps up substantially to 92,700, which takes us 11.57 seconds. Then with that same roll, when we swap off an Envious Assassin to Cascade points, we're still getting the same total damage, but our DPS here jumps up to 96,019, and that's because we're dumping in 11.17 seconds. But this is where bait and switch comes into play. Envious Assassin plus bait and switch with spike grenades and backup mag. We're dealing the same total damage as before at 1,244,468, and our DPS at 69,835, as it's taken 17.82 seconds. Now, nothing's really changing here with backup mag due to the fact that we still need to reload and we still need to proc bait and switch again. Now, Envious Assassin plus bait and switch plus augmented drum with backup mag, we're still dealing 1,211,688 total damage, but our DPS jumps up quite a bit to 76,786 in 15.78 seconds. Granted, our total damage is still behind that of spike grenades, but the DPS here is better as we don't have to reload when we have a mag boosting perk. Now, if we were to do a Cascade point swap off with Envious Assassin, proc bait and switch with augmented drum and backup mag, this increases our total damage since Cascade allows us to shoot fast enough that every single shot will get buffed by bait and switch outside of the initial one. There is no need to reproc here. This gives us a total damage value of 1,221,544 damage and a whopping DPS value of 97,724. The reason why DPS went up so much higher is in 12.5 seconds, we're able to blow our load. This combination right here, guys, absolutely cooks. This DPS even surpasses that of spike grenades and Envious Assassin, bait and switch with backup mag. Keep in mind though, total damage is worse though than a spike grenade roll. But the DPS there, the ability to blow literally everything you got without having to reload is very impressive. Now, as we mentioned, we tested deconstruct and sticky grenades as well. We did also pair this with Cascade points, and its total damage is really nice here at 1.448, but its DPS falls behind at 53,552. This, of course, is not proccing against vehicles, which would have given us a 40% increase. But because this is creating ammo from thin air in the current sandbox, that's why our total damage is so much higher, especially that sticky grenade deconstruct combination. We're literally able to sit here and lay on the trigger for 27 seconds. But in the final shape, you will not be able to increase your total damage like this, as it will not spawn ammo from thin air. Now, I also want to give us a point of reference. Corax's Distress, which is the Root of Nightmares grenade launcher, which can roll things like Surrounded and Field Prep. We clock the damage here, total 1.576. Its DPS value is 72,993. Now, you're able to dump this all in 21.6 seconds, and Corax's is really solid. But a couple things to note. Number one, Surrounded isn't the easiest perk to proc. And number two, even with the total damage being better, the sheer DPS that Edge Transit can pull off over Corax's and other weapons, while still maintaining that bait and switch buff for all 24 shots, I know Surrounded is a bigger damage buff, but that almost 100,000 DPS, I'll take that all day long. Now, with all the tests out of the way, what is the ultimate god roll? Guys, Bungie is literally increasing the drop chances for shiny variants next week, on top of the already increased drop chances they included this week. If there is ever a weapon to go for a shiny drop on, it is for Edge Transit. That Envious Assassin Cascade point swap off and that bait and switch explosive light swap off is just too good. That is the ultimate combination. After that, it really just comes down to your barrel perks and your mag perk. Hard Launch is probably going to be the preferred barrel perk since it lowers our blast radius down to 45, and you want that stat as low as possible. With that being said though, anything that can keep it at 50 is still good. Countermass, quick launch, smart drift control, all of those are just fine. Then for our magazine perk, spike grenades is of course the easy pick. It gives you the most damage per shot, being about a 3% increase after the nerf that it received a while back. But you do have mini frags, and this does lower your blast radius. But again, like we mentioned earlier, this still doesn't lower your blast radius enough to pass spike grenades in terms of damage. And augmented drum is in that same boat. Just like mini frags, it boosts that magazine, allowing us to load up 24 rounds in a single mag. And that ability to hang on to bait and switch for the entirety of that magazine is something we can't overlook. I think spike grenades is always a safe pick for that extra damage, but augmented drum with backup mag, or even mini frags with backup mag, either one of those is just fine for overflowing that magazine. And this is where I say, guys, if you can literally get the best of both worlds, then just get a roll with spike grenades and mini frags. I know I've got augmented drum on mine. I'll still take it. I'm still going to keep my roll. But if you got mini frags, if you tank that blast radius, or you want to use spike grenades and have it there as an option, depending on the damage phase you're in, perhaps ammo dumping without having to reload is something you're going to want. So that would be my ultimate god roll, guys. So again, hard launch to drop our blast radius, spike grenades, and mini frags as my 2 magazine options. Third column, Envious Assassin, Cascade. Fourth column, Bait and Switch, and Explosive Light. Fellas, if you get this god roll, please go buy a lottery ticket, because man, the stars have aligned for you. So guys, that's it. That is our review. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.